I got the heart of a lion that can't be tamed. I got the blood of a champion in my veins. And if I fall, I'm gonna get up again. I will be triumphant.
Hello, and welcome to Radiant Spirit, a podcast about sobriety, self-love, and living your most authentic life. I am Jennifer Gibbons, and this is episode 4, where I am telling my personal story of addiction, recovery, spiritual awakening, and this would be part 2. So if you're tuning in from last week, that was the dirty deeds before I figured out that I had to get sober, right? So I realized after that also, and I wanted to mention that was another little snippet of MC Yogi behind me with Triumphant. Maybe sounds a little familiar also from last week. It just seemed like the perfect song for how I'm feeling and what it was. Like if I could pick just a theme song for recovery, that would be it, because that's what it feels like every freaking day. I feel freaking triumphant that that's not my life anymore. It's amazing. So I'm going to do my best to keep this in chronological order, because so many things were happening so quickly and simultaneously around the time once I started working my program and really learning how to come into my authentic self. So we're in July of 2020, and I got sober after this dream. And I know I feel like if you're here, you're listening to this, you probably heard the part 1 of this story. So that crazy dream I had where my father-in-law, my now ex-father-in-law, I suppose, but in the spirit realm, I know he's there, he's part of my team, came to me in a dream. And that was when I knew I had to quit drinking. My spirit team was trying to talk to me. So that little dream was powerful enough to make me get rid of the Chardonnay. That was I drank pretty much anything you put in front of me. Let's be real. I'm an alcoholic. If it's in front of me and there's alcohol, I was going to drink it. So, but Chardonnay was my drink of choice. And that last day of drinking, so that would have been July 10th of 2020, that was the day that I did my very first ceremony out under the moon with this tree that was just a tree in the common space of my apartment complex where I lived. And I call that tree Mabel. She's a Japanese maple tree. There were 8 apartments that literally faced the courtyard. So it was like I was surrounded by people looking out their windows at me, and just not giving a shit. Like, whatever, this is what I have to do. I need to go connect with this tree, and I need to be somewhere where I can pour the remainder of this Chardonnay into the earth and give it to the earth. So what I did that night, my very first ceremony, I think I took some incense and a candle, and I took a really nice crystal goblet and this last half bottle of Chardonnay down to this tree. And I poured a glass for myself and had half a bottle that I ended up pouring into the ground. And with that tree, I poured out my heart and said goodbye to what had been probably what I considered about my best friend for most of my adult life, which was alcohol, that ability to numb away with alcohol. So that was a freaking powerful, powerful night. It was a 3/4 moon. And now the 3/4 moon, when it's high in the sky, let me tell you, I celebrate every freaking time. I just celebrated 43 cycles of the moon. Alcohol free, which is freaking awesome. So, but yeah, I call myself the sober moon goddess for a reason. And it started kind of like, it made me uncomfortable. And like, that's something my AA family kind of started calling me the moon goddess. And it made me feel a little uneasy, because I very much count my sobriety by the moon cycle. I do everything by the moon cycle. That's just how I roll. So that means a lot to me. And I go outside and do ceremony. I know that this isn't going to air until November 7th, but last night was actually that full moon eclipse, and you best believe I was out naked dancing under my tree and burning stuff. That's how I do. So now I'm fully embracing that. But this was early on. I did not fully embrace that. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, oh, I'm just going to go creep out the neighbors. That's what I'm going to do. So, and that just was my thing. Anytime I had something to celebrate, anytime I had something to grieve or give up, I went down to that tree, and I still go by and visit that tree. I love it. But yeah, in any case, so did that ceremony. The next day I wake up, no more alcohol. That's it. And I, like I said, spent 4 months in front of my altar, just bawling my eyes out with shark bait. And I brought him this time. This is shark bait. He's all dressed up for Halloween in a couple of days as a little piggy. He's so cute, but perfectly huggable. As you can see, perfect size for that, and perfect size to just snuggle and sop up all of my tears, because I was bawling my freaking eyes out. So not really knowing what the next step was. And of course we were on lockdown. So it wasn't like I was able to like go out and do new social things. In fact, even the AA meetings I knew about had been shut down. So that wasn't happening. So not that I was really feeling called to do that. I was still feeling really bitter and angry about the legal circumstances I was facing. I was terrified. So, you know, when I'm in a place of fear, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, when you're coming from such a place of fear, you react like a caged animal just lashing out. And that was what I was. I was angry and terrified and just like lashing out at anyone and everyone. Simultaneously, I was also getting these spiritual psychic downloads that I had never had before. Thank God for my therapist, who totally understood. Very familiar. I believe she's a medium herself, but was able to hold my hand through that. But and like I had mentioned on the last episode, about 4 months in, and actually coming up next week would be about a 3-year anniversary of when I found my home group, my AA family on Zoom. Those guys are so rad. I love that group. But even though I don't really go anymore, but those people hold a very special place in my heart, and I do keep my individual relationships from that meeting. Yeah, freaking awesome. I don't have enough good things to say about that group, but and yeah, it's kind of special coming up on 3 years of when I met that crew. When I first hopped on and finally figured out how to find the Zoom meeting, my laptop was breaking at the time, and I am not a tech savvy gal. Don't let this podcast fool you. I am not tech savvy. So it was a little frustrating, and it took me several days to actually figure out what I was doing and find a meeting that I could log on to. So that day when I did, I believe it was November 6th, if I remember correctly, of 2020. So at that point I was coming up on, would it be 4 months, 3 months, 4 months sober, something like that. I got to do the math, but whatever. I know that I had just had 3 moon cycles, or like a month before that, something along that, around 3 moon cycles. I got a really solid psychic download that, was keeping me going. That was my reason to wake up and live for a while. It was awesome. So, and those now they started just coming in fast and hot. And now it's just such a regular part of who I am that I do not dismiss or ignore them, and use that in my business. It's a beautiful thing, but that is all, so much growing has happened. But, so yeah, I found my AA family. And when I first came onto this meeting, I was a bitter little twat. I did not want to be there. I was still smoking a ton of weed. I think at the time I found AA, yeah, I had ditched alcohol, but I was probably smoking about an ounce a week by myself. Like, I've mentioned I was married to a grower, and he would joke sometimes that he had this job to support my habit, and that wasn't incorrect. Not that that's the reason why he had that job, but it sure as hell was convenient for me and my habits. So yeah, I was not like, I was, yeah, free of alcohol, but that was a vice I had not given up when I first came into those rooms. And it took me like really understanding what it looked like to work your steps, and like just observing other people and other people sharing in my meeting, for me to realize, oh, this isn't how I can't do this. And I started tapering off, tapering off. It took a few tries to really ditch it. But by the time I found my sponsor and got my sponsor, it was like, okay, I think I had a few slip ups. I had a handful of slip ups, but not with alcohol. The Mary Jane, I did. Yeah, I've gone back and forth, and yeah, that was a little bit harder. Same with tobacco. Tobacco was a lot harder for me to get rid of than alcohol, but I kicked that in 7 months after I quit alcohol. I got the tobacco out. That was rough. That's when I started kind of slipping with Mary Jane, because it was like I would get rid of Mary Jane, but then I still needed the tobacco. I wanted to smoke something. And then when I got rid of the tobacco, Mary Jane kind of made her way back in for a minute, and occasionally here and there. It's actually how I kind of figured out and learned that spirit medicine, working with spirit medicine, is very much a part of my gift. And while that has not really made itself known, well, it's made itself known. I know that San Pedro very much talks to me. I have not yet worked with this plant, but I've learned a lot about her, or him, her, I don't know. But I've learned a lot about San Pedro, and I imagine someday that's a plant that I'm going to work with. But right now, no, it's just that's the message coming from above. But I digress. So yeah, in January, I believe it was right after the new year of 2021, that is when I got my sponsor. And someone I finally connected with. There had been some interviews. It was kind of an interview process. So if you are working your program and having a hard time finding your sponsor, do not lose patience. The right person will find you when the time is right. Yeah, but that interview process is totally okay. You're getting to know this person that you're going to be sharing your entire heart with. So I met an amazing witchy woman that was willing to take me on, and she was my lifeline. It was amazing. I'm so grateful that she was in my life and helped me work through those steps. And I will say the first time I did a burn was my step 4. And it was 12 pages of resentments. And I took those pages down to my tree. And this was before I knew how to burn safely. Oh my God, now I burn totally safely. I have a whole setup. I should probably share links of photos of what my burn looks like these days. It's a pretty usual thing for me. Last night was a little extra special with that full moon eclipse. That was pretty rad. But I will definitely share photos, and of course also of my other crew, because Sharkbait is not alone now. We have a whole plushy crew that represent me at different ages of like my inner child that needed love. And I'm learning how to love myself by showing love to Sharkbait and his siblings, which there's a whole bunch of them now. So when in doubt, when I don't know how to love myself, I shine love on these little guys, and it makes my inner child just squeal with delight. Ha, no pun intended, as he's dressed like a pig. Um, so yeah. January 2021, I get my sponsor, I work my steps, and that first time burning my 12 pages of resentments, you guys, I am so happy that it had just rained, because I was not safe, and I could have lit the whole freaking apartment complex on fire. That was not smart. But damn it, it felt great. So that was where my burnings began. And now I burn stuff all the time. That's just part of what I do. In fact, if you see me on TikTok or Instagram, you might see my smudging videos. I burn all kinds of different herbs for different reasons. And anything I write down that is meant to go up to the universe, whether it be a prayer request for someone else or my own intentions, whatever, I burn it. So no, around the time that I'd finished completely working through the steps, this list comes up to about the spring. I want to say about April of 2021. And this is when things were starting to open up from COVID in my area. So there was a church down the road from me. And church is not a place you are going to find me. Like, I know I've mentioned early on in the beginning half of my story, I definitely have some church wounds that it's not my vibe. Definitely not my vibe. You know, I have my own relationship with spirit, and church kind of feels like a disconnection from spirit to me. So But to each his own, not knocking it. If that works for you, great. But I had a client, a friend client. I'm an herbalist, and she would come over to my house to get her tinctures refilled. So she was over at my house and telling me there is something going on down at this church down the road. They're changing what they're doing. It's no longer Grace Good Shepherd. They are Abbey of the Redwoods, and they are trying to turn more of a Unitarian thing, but offering meditation, yoga, things like this. And I thought, okay, at this point, I just wanted to get out of the house. I needed to meet new friends because let's be real, anyone who's quit drinking knows that any of your friends that were your drinking buddies have disappeared by now, right? I thought I had a handful of really good friends, but as it turned out, I just really had acquaintances that liked to come over and drink my booze and smoke my weed. But once those things went away, I was no fun to hang out with anymore. So it was just me and Sharkbait and my ex-husband, who was working all the time. So I was very lonely. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try this out, because this particular friend who invited me, had anybody else invited me, I would have just said no. No. But this particular friend, I knew that we were on the same wavelength, spiritually speaking. So I was like, if she's telling me I got to go check this out, all right. But if my hair starts to singe as I walk in the door, I'm getting the hell out of there, right? So in any case, I go with her. She says, I will pick you up, because of course I don't have a car. So she came and picked me up, and we went to this church service. And it was like nothing I expected. Yes, there was a homily, but it was not about the Bible. It was I can't even remember the book that they spoke about. And it was a female pastor that was speaking that day. It's actually a husband and wife at that church, but that day was her that was speaking. And I really vibed with it. I really vibed. And I was like, okay. And then, yeah, there was a man that got up and announced that yoga and meditation on Monday nights was going to be offered. And I was like, or it was yoga certain days and just meditation on Mondays, but it was the same time as my AA meeting. But I just felt this ping, and I'd been hearing like spirit talking to me all over: meditation, meditation. And back in the day, I had done like a hardcore Vipassana retreat in Thailand, like the 10-day silent retreat. And that was, it was an epic experience, but my practice had really dwindled. I didn't really sit and meditate per se all that often. So, but universe, spirit was telling me this is what it's got to get back in my system. So, I thought, oh my God, okay, it's the same times as my meetings, but it's one night a week. At this point, I was going to AA religiously every day of the week, and it was 6 p.m. every night. That was my life, my AA meeting on Zoom. So I talked to my sponsor about it, and she was like, yeah, it's probably good to mix it up with meditation. That's great. So Monday Meditations with Matt, that's where that started, was in April of 2021. And I started walking down to the church. Sometimes my ex would give me rides if he was working, if he could. But it was 2 blocks away. Even with my hip dysplasia, which I now have a new hip, but that's later in the story. But I was always in a lot of pain, and walking was physically very difficult for me. But it was only 2 blocks. And so I did it. And at that point, I think my dad gave me a bike also, so I could ride my bicycle, I could walk. And it was just kind of perfect, because there wasn't a whole lot of things I could get to and go to do. But this was just perfect. Location, time, everything. So before long, Matt, who actually is now my partner, but at the time, no, we had just met, we hit it off really well and started just sharing really personal things about the way spirit talks to us in the world. And as it turned out, these psychic downloads I was getting, he was getting the same messages in other ways, as we're all so unique and different beings, where like, my psychic abilities are sight. I tend to see. I also feel, but mostly I see. And he feels and hears. So we were getting the same messages. He was hearing things and feeling things where I was seeing them. So, and also hearing, but yeah. So there was one day, shortly into this, I want to say, probably just a month in, like May, June, that nobody else happened to show up to meditation. And we had both just had some crazy psychic experience. And somehow we started talking about it. And it was like, oh my God, that's happening to you too. Okay, we're not going crazy. This is good. This is good. We're on the same spirit team. We get this. Okay. So that is where our connection started. And we were just really fast friends right away. And whenever I would see him at church, our conversations would immediately go so deep, like way deeper than I could seem to have conversations with my husband at the time. It was like we were just talking about our purpose, the world, the evolution of humanity, and it was interesting how deep those conversations got right away. But sometime around July, he was going out of town for yoga retreat or something, and had asked if I could fill in and lead the meditation on Monday night. And I was thinking, you've heard me talk. I don't know if I can lead a meditation. I'm all about being there for it, but I think I'm not a very good person for this. Like, I talk way too fast, way too much. I don't know if this is in my wheelhouse, but I didn't want to say no. I'm a people pleaser. I really wanted to make sure that we didn't have to skip meditation that week. And I thought, okay, I can do like my best impression of him. And of course, I had all these books. I'm just going to do some sort of heart-centered meditation. And of course, it went beautifully. It went great. I was able to drop into my meditation voice and my meditation self, and it went beautifully. And that gave me the confidence to, of course, I shared that with my AA family. Oh my gosh, I led this meditation. It went beautifully. Several of my friends showed up, and I was just so proud of myself for accomplishing that, because I didn't think that was in my skill set. But it went so beautifully that about a month later, when again Matt went out of town, he asked me to fill in for him, and I did that again, and it went even more comfortably the second time. So the first time, I think I had all of these notes, which if anyone, if the meditation is part of your jam, you're probably eyes closed. Notes is really a ridiculous thing to have, but that's how I am. Over prepare. And I probably never use them, but I wanted to be prepared. So yeah, after the second time of being able to lead meditation in person, I started telling my friends in AA that, hey, this is going really great. And a handful of my girlfriends were like, well, can we just do this on Zoom? So I started just leading guided meditations like I did the couple of times in person. But what I would do is just kind of mimic what we would do, what Matt would lead on a Monday night. And then I would go the next Saturday, on a Saturday morning, and I would hop onto Zoom with my AA friends, and I would mimic what he had done the previous Monday, and just share that meditation, that heart-centered meditations with my AA people. So that's where I started getting more comfortable on Zoom, more comfortable speaking. Now, not to get too far ahead of myself, because this is right when I was turning a year sober. So now with my marriage, how that was all going. Now, we were continually drifting apart. We had been for years. To be perfectly honest, I can't imagine what it was like being married to a raging alcoholic like myself. Yeah, but damn it, my husband at the time sure did give it his all and then some, to be the most supportive, amazing, and he was supportive, amazing throughout the whole process, throughout everything. But we got to exactly 12 moon cycles on the 12th three-quarter moon of me kicking alcohol. I remember that morning he came out of his bedroom. And when I say his bedroom, yes, we did have separate bedrooms. We had been at this point in separate bedrooms for quite some time. If that wasn't a sign, I don't know what. Since before I quit drinking, we had been in separate bedrooms. So he came out of his bedroom and sat down next to me on the couch and said, "I'm not happy. Are you?" And honestly, no, neither one of us were very happy, although we were really good friends. I can think of nobody else that shares my sense of humor like he does. And we got along really great. We rarely fought, even with all of my fuck ups. We did not fight. We got along really well, and like I said, share the same sense of humor. Yeah, yeah. I feel a lot. I miss that. I miss that a lot. Yeah. But in any case, that was like they say in the AA program, you wait 1 year before making any major decisions. And being that I always count the moon cycles, not necessarily the year, although I celebrate both, but I'm more in tune with the moon cycles. Being that it was the 12th moon cycle, that was the day that he made that decision. And I suppose I could have known something was up. Like I'd noticed he'd been putting more money in the savings accounts, really to make sure that I was going to be okay when he moved out, which is just the kindest thing. Like I can't imagine a kinder way of handling that. But yeah, he had already made arrangements to move out and was planning to move back to be near his family in Montana. So, yeah, I can't say that that was much of a surprise. In fact, after that conversation, I can remember this weight off of my chest lifting. And it was like all of a sudden I can actually breathe once the shock kind of went away. So yeah, that was happening, although it didn't change my living situation. Again, we were in separate bedrooms and we had kind of been living like roommates for a really long time. So when we openly decided to separate, and at first it was just to separate to see, but then it was like, let's just go forward with the divorce. We're clearly like, it was a great 20 years, but our journeys are parting ways. And so, yeah, like with love, with honor, we moved separate ways. And I say with love and honor, I made a lot of mistakes. I really fucked up. Yeah, I fucked up big time in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I don't want to dwell on that. Not going to dwell on that, but just sending that off with love and light in my heart there. So, yeah, but that was interesting times. So while this was happening, I was throwing myself into making myself of service, and that meant leading meditations for people. Also around this time, so I'd been going to AA for a while, and right around just about a month after I had my 1 year birthday celebration, my 1 year sober birthday celebration, which was like I baked lemon cupcakes for myself and I took some down to my tree. That was my celebration. It was pretty cool. And of course, being on my meeting. So yeah, just remembering during that meeting, I think my ex came in and smashed one of my cupcakes in my face as my celebration, which was very funny. But yeah, I still try to bake myself something on my birthday. But around this time, so we were coming up on the new moon in Leo. And at this time, I had been really getting involved at the Abbey of the Redwoods, the church down the road. They had this farm stand. They had a half-acre, they have a half-acre farm garden behind the church. And they had got this old fireworks stand and we're making it a farm stand, selling produce on Saturdays. And they needed volunteers, and by golly, I needed something to do. So that was my jam. I started volunteering at the farm stand and helping getting that up and going and managing that. And now it is booming. Now they are inside. I'm actually going to be teaching a fire cider making workshop there next month, or like 6 weeks, something like that from now. Pretty cool, but it has really evolved. But in the beginning, we were just doing the farm stand every Saturday. And then there would be the first Saturday of every month, we had this big flea market. And I also make herbal products. So I would have my separate table there. And there was this one day, and it was, like I said, the new moon in Leo. And there had been something brewing in my AA meetings. And as far as how that was going and where the readings were setting with me and other women in my group, and I'm going to say my age and younger, the patriarchal verbiage of the big book was really starting to rub people the wrong way. And this is something I'd brought up to my sponsor on multiple occasions, because I would try to read these passages and I'd be like, this is bullshit. First off, women are not property. Let's wake the fuck up to that. Because yeah, anyone who's read the first, like, was it 10 or 11 chapters of the big book, if you are a female, you might find it very offensive. Because it was written in like 1939. And yeah, it doesn't speak to women as if we are equals. Very much not. So, and it was getting really frustrating to force women to read through the lens of a man. And other people had been sharing about that, and it had been getting to where, and I was somebody who would share every night. You get 3 minutes in these meetings, and it was building where, like, 3 nights in a row, the shares of other women expressing how frustrated they were with the verbiage, which on the side, I was actually typing it out and just changing the pronouns. That's all it needs to be. Like, an app could do this. Just changing the freaking pronouns to treat everybody equally. Um, yeah, I was working on it. In fact, I got like 6 chapters deep of just changing the freaking pronouns so that there was something else for women to read. I believe there's a lot more going on in that program now with that, but the tension was building, and the old timers were not happy about it. So I've been kind of shutting my mouth, and it was really unusual for me, but I didn't share for like 3 days in a row. And it was starting to be where, like, people were texting me, "Are you okay?" But really, I was just fuming over the back ass words, patriarchal bullshit that we were being forced to read. It was driving me crazy. So here we are. It was a Saturday, new moon in Leo, and I'm like, or the new moon was the following day, and I had been doing these little new moon meetings on the side where we were just talking about the moon cycle and like different crystals and herbs that could help us with that. Just kind of something for fun. I needed social time, and I'm super in tune with the moon, so it was like, let's just talk about it. So and that was kind of a spin-off of AA meetings. I'm sure the old timers were thrilled with that too. Um, but it was coming up on that meeting that night, and I believe I was supposed to speak or lead them. I think I was supposed to host the meeting or co-host the meeting. Or something like that. But I knew I was going to have the floor, and I was starting to fume. And so I remember that day I had some downtime, and I'm sitting out there in this parking lot with all of my wares, and it got quiet. There was no traffic. And I just said, "Okay, God, if I am supposed to speak my heart, make it clear in the daily reflection." And I'm not a person that read the daily reflection every day. I'm sure I have the book somewhere, but that wasn't my thing. I didn't go to that. My practice was different. So, my practice was that of sitting down, making my gratitudes, and I do my own witchy thing at my altar. So, yeah, but those AA daily reflections just wasn't what I got into, but we would always read them in the meeting. So that night, the reflection was about speaking your heart, speaking your truth. And I was like, oh shit, this is God telling me, yep, it's time to speak up. And I remember preparing my speech because I had 3 minutes. 3 minutes to speak my heart on this. And I'm very passionate about it. I'm still very passionate about it. I believe that's part of why I don't really go to those meetings, because I don't vibe with that. No, I don't like being, I don't like that at all. And I think there's a lot of women that can relate to that, or non-binary, or wherever you are on the spectrum. There's a lot of people that don't like that, which is why the preamble is finally changed. Hopefully they're doing that with the big book too. But yeah, but whatever, I digress. So that night I had 3 minutes, and I don't remember exactly what I said. I remember I started off by saying thank you to my brothers in AA for giving us women a safe space to speak our heart about what this feels like to be forced to look through the lens of a man, and being forced to relate that to ourselves when it doesn't feel that way. But being able to hold space for us in that, because it takes a special group of men to be able to simply listen and hold space for that. And I acknowledged that and thanked them for being epic. And then I said, goddesses, I see you, I hear you. And yeah, this isn't okay. And I don't know exactly what I said, but I said, if you want to actually talk about sobriety, because in my moon meetings, we were talking about sobriety. It was just a spin-off of AA, but I wasn't doing all the reading, and it wasn't official, but it very much was being treated like a women's meeting, essentially. And so just another support system. That's it. So I said, goddesses, I see you. And if you want to participate in something where we're not doing this kind of thing, we're going the other direction, message me directly. And that day, because I had a new moon meeting the next day, my little new moon meeting went from about 6 or 7 people to 29. So super effective, but damn, I pissed people off. I almost got kicked out of my AA family that night, or at least suspended for 30 days for saying that. Um, it was a big shift. But when I look back on it now, as uncomfortable as that was, especially being a people pleaser, I really wanted to make my AA family happy. But man, I pissed off those old timers and just speaking my heart. But it was me being genuine, it was me being my authentic self. And that's it. So it kind of showed me that me being my authentic self, and I can see it now, is like, oh, that's not really the vibe I'm at. But the thing is there are so many different groups for sobriety. There are so many different avenues. AA is not the only way. At that time, for myself, it was the only thing recognized by the court system, aside from like going to rehab, which you're also going to use the 12-step programs in a rehab facility. So, I mean, maybe there's some out there that's doing something different, where now the meetings I'm attending have more of a Dharma-esque quality to them, and more all-encompassing for wherever people are on their sober journey, or whatever substance it might be that they're working with, or working to kick, whatever. Yeah, I very much vibe more on that side of things, but I do not diminish the 12-step program, because even though that's not really where my heart vibes, and my authentic self just doesn't feel comfortable in that setting necessarily, or really with that mindset, the old school mindset. That's just not my vibe. But for some people, that is the vibe, and that's perfect. And that program, those 12 steps, saved my fucking life, and is really what helped me learn how to be my authentic self. So I'm not knocking it at all. That was my path. And now, yeah, my path is altered. It's changed a little bit. So same thing with the church situation. It's so funny, because it's like, for this period of time, it seemed like this very open-minded place to be, and like leaning towards Unitarian, lots of like emphasis on yoga and meditation, and that's kind of tapered off. But it's interesting, because that's kind of when my position volunteering there sort of started to trickle off. I moved to the other side of the bay, so I'm not really right down the road anymore. And it's interesting how that church has kind of gone back to what it was. It was almost like it was just enough my vibe, and the same as now my partner, for long enough for us to come together, meet, form a really healthy friendship and a really great bond. And sure enough, like later down the road, it has evolved, and now that's my partner, and we are very much on a mission to spread as much love into this world as we possibly can. And yeah, it's so fucking beautiful. It's amazing. So the physical journey and the healing that has happened with all of this, and like learning how to listen to my psychic downloads, listen to the universe, and just be my freaking authentic self, and in the hopes of that, the more I can get in tune with my authentic self and shine that out in the world, the more I am leading by example and showing others how to get in tune with themselves authentically, and just get rid of any shame, or yeah, any judgment we have on ourselves for just being ourselves, because this world really likes to put that shame and judgment on us, or make us feel that we shouldn't be. We need to be what's expected of us. But that's so nonsense. It's bullshit. Um, anyways, I'm getting a little sniffly. Sorry. So physically, I wanted to talk about the transformation that's happened there too, because there has been such this incredible transformation over the last few years. And I can't believe it's already been 3 years. It's like, wow. But so much has shifted and changed. Like I was mentioning earlier in this podcast, just telling the first half of my story felt like I almost was like getting energy sick. It was like I had to wriggle into this snake skin that I had already shed, just for the purpose of telling that story and trying to remember what it was like to be in that skin. But man, it was uncomfortable. It made me feel off kilter. And it took me a couple of days to reset and really I don't know, do some witchy shit. That burning last night really helped recalibrate me. So, um, physically, I am so much more in tune with my body than I ever have been. And that goes hand in hand with this, like, getting in touch with yourself, like on a spiritual level, that lines up and it starts to happen physically. So, like I'd mentioned before, I've always had a whole lot of hip pain. And this has been most of my life. I had a really hard fall in the ice when I was 28. And immediately after, it was like nerve pain I was dealing with. And the diagnosis I got at the time was like, oh, well, it's just arthritis. It's going to keep getting worse. This is just your life now. So I'd just been kind of numbing the pain with alcohol and weed and just being like, well, I just don't walk very far. It really hurts. And so I just accepted that. Well, as I started increasing my meditation practice, and then it got to be a point where the meditation and the yoga, which I had been avoiding the yoga at all costs, because I was like, I don't want to make an ass of myself in front of a room full of people, knowing my body doesn't do that. But I was always trying to put on this smile and act like I'm not in pain. I'm not in pain. And like really kind of trying to walk off my limp or walk in a really uncomfortable way so you couldn't tell that I had a limp, but only could pull that off for short periods. I don't know how well I did. I probably looked ridiculous, but it was embarrassing to have this limp. So I really tried to hide it. But I needed that yoga to really get in tune with my body and be able to start getting to the bottom of what the problem was. So, wouldn't you know how the universe works is the meditations, the Monday meditations with Matt, they started changing. And instead of just doing the meditation on one day and then yoga was another day, they were back to back. And at this point, I was needing to get a ride home because it was coming up on winter. It was getting dark, and I was still living with my ex-husband now, but we at the time still married. We had just decided to separate, but yeah, we're still living together. And uh, yeah, so I was getting rides when he couldn't come pick me up. So I had to do the meditation and the yoga back to back. There was like I couldn't figure out any way to like kindly bow out of yoga at that point. It was like, this is the universe telling me I need the freaking yoga. So, and I can see that now, but damn it, I was resistant. So, started the yoga practice and didn't really think much of it. I was feeling pretty good. It took some time, probably at least a year into the yoga practice. I feel like, about a year ago is when my partner and I moved in together, and this is the space I'm in now. But I was in this little apartment before, and my yoga practice, I was starting to do a little bit at home, but I didn't have a whole lot of space. I wasn't doing a whole lot. And certainly wasn't inquiring further on things I could do to make my hip stronger. That kind of started and evolved when we got more space. And as that started happening, it was like my partner, Matt, at the time was like, so maybe you should go see a chiropractor because it's just weird that you can't do these certain things or your leg just doesn't move that way. So I was like, you know what? You're probably right. So sure enough, I go to the chiropractor. That starts the ball rolling. He's like, we need to do an MRI. This is weird. Can't figure it out. Now, the whole time this is happening, I was doing spiritual work and meditation work, focusing on my sacral chakra. Now, I had a hysterectomy when I was 33. So I had always had a lot of issues, physical issues with my sacral chakra. So it kind of lines up when my hips started getting bad. It was when after I had my hysterectomy. So it was like it just shifted. The physical pain just shifted from one place to the other. Now, I am a firm believer that what is going on with us spiritually is manifesting itself physically in our bodies. So my sacral chakra is definitely where I spend a lot of time focusing on healing because yeah, that's where I have all my physical issues. So it stands to reason that they're to take notice of what's going on spiritually. And sure enough, it pings on every point. So that's where I've been doing a lot of work there on the spiritual level and physical level. But as I started doing the spiritual work, the physical healing just started happening. So, I'm doing the work spiritually. I'm also going to chiropractor, and he ordered the MRI. So it finally goes through my regular doctor and then back to my chiropractor. There was a lot of delay with that. I'm sure anybody dealing with medical stuff post COVID knows that nothing is happening overnight. That's for damn sure. So um yeah, they finally got the MRI, got the results, and I remember the phone call of my doctor saying, "We don't know how you're walking. This is bone on bone. What? How are you even moving?" And as soon as I heard that, my pain got so much worse. It was almost like I was given permission to feel the pain that I'd been feeling this whole time. So it got really painful. But ball started rolling, and before I knew it, I got my hip replaced, which was May of this year. So I've had my new hip since May 22nd, and now I have mobility that I have not had my entire adult life. Like, well, I guess my early 20s probably, but I'm able to run. I'm able to stretch, do things that my yoga practice is increasing now. It's getting amazing. And it's all because of the work. And I know that what was happening spiritually is just a reflection of what was happening physically. So this feels like a whole new chapter in my life. And I'm so excited to be able to share the tricks, the tools, or jewels in my jewelry box that I have gathered along the way that have gotten me to this point. Because let's be real, I'm only, like I said, 43 moon cycles sober. That's it. That's not very long at all. But the transformation in those 43 cycles of the moon is fucking incredible. So I'm still living every day trying to shine as much love in the world as I possibly can, but mostly on myself. The more love we show ourselves, that is what we're reflecting out in the world. It is so freaking important. I'm going to say it all the time because that's my freaking philosophy. So, and that of my partner as well, who I'm sure is going to be a regular guest here because we have a lot of freaking awesome heart-centered conversations that I think it would benefit to share here. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. In fact, talking about that and how Radiant Spirit began, which is exactly what I called the meditations that were the spin-off of my AA Zoom meetings, was, hey, let's just get together and meditate. Well, what we would do is we would meditate for about 45 minutes of the hour, and then just open up the floor for discussion on any areas of our life that we were having a hard time shining love on, and just open discussion. What does that look like to either be able to love that situation more, or more often than not, how do we love ourselves in that situation? So, I mean, with everything going on in our world, there's a lot of things hard to love right now. So when in doubt, freaking love yourself, you know? But where this all started, we're just recorded Zoom meetings. And if you're interested in seeing what that looked like, check out the website, embracelove.life. I will include links on this. So you can click on the website and just go under the videos section. There, under videos, there is a whole section for Radiant Spirit. Yeah, on that note, if you're interested in my herbal products, you can click on the wellness link as well, and just check out some of the herbal stuff that I'm making if that interests you. But yeah, the whole evolution of Radiant Spirit, how I got to be right here from just feeling uncomfortable in an AA meeting and like I needed to, I don't know, just talk about sobriety, but in my own way, minus the patriarchal bullshit. So, and really getting in touch with your heart center and learning how to listen to your higher self, higher power, God, goddess, universe, spirit, whatever the fuck you call it. It's all the same thing. I don't really care. I had a really hard time with God for a while. When people would say the G word, I would shudder. And I realized that comes from that feeling like an outsider when I was going through so much trauma as a teenager in my church, and just feeling like I was evil or wrong. And there was everything wrong with me. So it's taken a lot to get over that. But now I can say the G word. Yes, God, if that is what you want to call spirit, I'm perfectly happy with that. So lots of growth, lots of changes have happened. And yeah, so wanted to mention the website, check it out. That's also where these episodes are still going. So I'm still putting those out there. Well, I'm also streaming on Spotify and YouTube, and hopefully coming soon to the other podcasting formats. But for now, I feel like that leads up to where I'm at right now. And every day, just trying to live like you would say in the program, live my steps 10, 11, and 12. Just doing my best me every day and living honestly, with honesty, with integrity, being rigorously honest with myself and therefore with the world. There's no shame in our game. There is no reason to hide any of our mistakes, because our mistakes are what make us so fucking beautiful and unique. And it's just a reflection of the challenges and the adversity that we have chosen as spiritual beings to overcome in this incarnation. So whatever that is and whatever that looks like in your life, I honor you. I commend you. You're a fucking badass. Keep doing the work and showing up for yourself. Yeah, just such an honor to be able to share my story on this platform and be able to share the transformation side, because yeah, dwelling on the past, we have our lessons to learn, but that doesn't necessarily serve us to dwell there. So with that, thank you again for joining me and listening to my story. I would like to take us out with a little bit more MC Yogi, of course, ending with Triumphant. This is my jam. It is my sober anthem. So yeah, check out MC Yogi on Spotify also if you're into it, into those conscious beats. And thanks for joining me. I look forward to putting out another episode next week, and we'll be sharing the miraculous stories of recovery and spiritual awakening from hopefully lots of other people. So thanks again for tuning in, and yeah, buckle up and hold on. Let's glow.
I got the heart of a lion that can't be tamed. I got the blood of a champion in my veins. And if I fall, I'm gonna get up again. I will be triumphant.
Let the drum kick sound every trumpet. I will never forfeit, I will be triumphant. Triumphant, triumphant. Fists in the sky, yeah, let me see you pump it now. You hear the sound, crowds going wild. I'm taking on the crown, inside of my chest I can feel my heart pound. I'ma stand my ground, I will never back down.
I got the heart of a lion that can't be tamed. I got the blood of a champion in my veins. And if I fall, I'm gonna get up again. I will be triumphant.
All I got, I'm gonna give it all I got, yeah. All I got, I'm gonna give it all I got. Cause there's a fire inside that can never be diminished. It can never be destroyed, it can never be extinguished. To this flame, everything I relinquish. To this flame, my strength and my commitment. Fan the flame, feel it shining in my bones. Fan the flame, feel it shining in my soul. Fan the flame, feel it rise, feel it grow. With the spotlight shine from the center of my soul.